I'm going to talk about Indigenous affairs. We've talked about a cultural genocide. We've talked about residential schools, missing women, reserves without housing or drinking water. And here's my question. It's very simple. It can't be easier. What are you going to do tangibly to improve living conditions for Indigenous people? Mr. Scheer, we'll start with, we'll start with you.
Here we go again, and I wore my orange turban again. But anyways, that's a very serious question. What I've seen is Mr. Trudeau. He talks a good game publicly, but the decisions he makes privately are the problem. When it comes to Indigenous communities, if there was a willingness to do something right away, it could be done. It's as simple as that. If the decision was to fund Indigenous kids the same way as other Canadian kids, that could be done. It shouldn't have to go to court. I would respect Indigenous communities. It's a matter of dignity. If you start with that recognition, it could solve so many problems. Equal funding is the starting point.
Go ahead, Mr. Scheer.
Thank you very much. With regards to respecting Indigenous peoples, we have to respect when Indigenous communities say yes to projects to help economic growth. When we speak about remote or rural communities, sectors that create the most jobs for First Nations is the mining, the forestry, and the energy sectors. And that is the reason for which I said that I would appoint a minister whose portfolio would be to consult in a dynamic way so that we meet our obligations with our treaties.
Our relationships with the First Peoples have well, there's a lack of trust there. That's my understanding, because these are truly nations that have the same rights, privileges, obligations as any other nation. There's been a UN declaration, there are studies, there are commissions, there are inquiries, and they say, I'm okay with saying it because it comes from them, but they say that there's never any follow-up. We never implement any clear measure. The debate is theoretical, but meanwhile there's no real solution, there's no respect that is established, there's no trust that is built. We will need to deeply change our relationship with Indigenous peoples.
I fully agree with what Mr. Blanchet just said. And in fact, if we're going to talk about respect, I visited Grassy Narrows, and they have a mercury poisoning problem there. But Mr. Trudeau, at a private event, made fun of someone who was an advocate, saying that their water was poisoned. What are you going to do about it? And he said, thanks for your donation. It's incomprehensible how someone could do that. If you had visited that community and seen the impact of that poisoning on people's bodies, how people are trembling because of that intoxication, that poisoning, I have no words for it. It's incredible.
We're going to stop this three-way debate now. Mr. Trudeau, you've been asked a very specific question. I'll give you 30 seconds to answer.
Thank you. We have made huge investments in Indigenous communities across the country, and with the community of Grassy Narrows, we are working with them to approve a treatment center, and we will make sure that the funding is in place for that treatment center.
We'll talk about Indigenous issues in your debate.
This is a bit shocking. We're able to find billions of dollars in order to buy a pipeline, but after years and years and years, we don't have enough money so that Indigenous communities have clean water. We should have respect and dignity for peoples that are peoples as much as we are. Please.
That almost all the parties, one after the other, have noted that it's very difficult to make improvements concretely. Mr. Scheer.
This is a challenge. It is essential for us to have a government that meets its responsibilities in a serious way. That is my commitment to First Nations. We will make sure that not only are there investments we want there to also be a new system to make sure that investments work. It's not just a question of money, it's a question of re-establishing the dynamics in our departments and agencies. I've asked First Nation statutes to be modernized so that they can benefit from natural resources on reserve.
The problem,
Natural resources are the key, in your opinion?
the key to this problem is that conservative and liberal governments have chosen to neglect Indigenous communities. They had the opportunity to do something if they wanted to. When they have a chance to do something for the oil patch, they jump on the chance to buy a pipeline
2 seconds.
at a huge cost.
If you're going to do something, do it alongside First Nations. Do not impose it top-down. They have the right to be part of decision-making.